What's up, everybody? Good morning and a happy Monday to you all. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. Stream it up on our video streams on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. Got the apps. Download those and take them on the go. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit up a brand new work week this morning. Get your torpedo bats out and power through this day, right? So that's part of our game plan this morning. Talking a little Brew Crew Brewers getting swept by the Yankees over the weekend, and the topic of discussion in the baseball world: torpedo bats. Torpedo bats by the Yankees. I'm sure you all heard about it by now, but yeah, Yankees just absolutely dominating the Brewers Saturday, 20-9 victory. You're talking 3 pitches at the beginning and 3 home runs for the Yankees. Ended up getting 4 home runs in that first inning, but Aaron Judge with 3 alone from himself, including a grand slam. And then yesterday, more offense for the Yankees, 12-3 victory. But the Brewers getting swept by the New York Yankees to begin their season. They'll be back home for their home opener today against the Royals, hopefully within the friendly confines of American Family Fields. The Brewers will have some better results and able to keep the ball in the ballpark. But man, what a just absolute trouncing by the Yankees against the Crew. And to add insult to injury here, more injury news for the Brewers pitchers. Aaron Savali leaving the game early due to a hamstring issue. So this overreaction Monday, if you will. I'm freaking out about the pitching staff here. I mean, are they going to have enough arms, for crying out loud? Are they going to have enough bodies to go out there? I mean, that's the best way to put it. Are they going to have enough, people to go out there and actually pitch for this team? So Jake Bauers had to go in and just get through some innings in the last couple of days here. I mean, geez Louise, not a very good performance from this pitching staff. I mean, it makes Freddie Peralta's outing, and Freddie didn't have a bad outing, but I mean, he gave up a couple home run balls, solo shots there. But I mean, his outing on Thursday for opening day looks spectacular compared to the last couple of days here. So, going out for the Brewers for their home opener is going to be Elvin Rodriguez, and so we got to see him a little bit last year with Tampa Bay. Not a whole lot there. Spent a little time Tampa Bay in 2023, 2022. He was with Detroit a little bit too. So kind of just a opener, if you will. And Pat Murphy acknowledging that, yeah, it's not ideal considering, it's the home opener and fans probably want to see a normal starter, regular starter, big name starter and such. But factor in all the injuries now going on with this Brewers pitching staff, it's a cause for concern, even just 3 games in. I don't think there's any sugarcoating it, and there's no, trying to look on totally on the positive side. It's a concern when you look at the injuries and the pitching performance from this weekend. I mean, Nestor Cortez was, let's just call it what it was. He was awful. He was awful going up against his former team on Saturday. Aaron Savali getting hurt too. I mean, it just up and down on Saturday and Sunday. It was a dreadful pitching performance from this team. And I know a lot of the talk is going to be the torpedo bats from the Yankees and such. Rhys Hoskins said before the game yesterday that he's got some ordered. I would imagine not just from the Brewers, but maybe some other players from different teams might be looking into getting some torpedo bats and seeing if their luck can maybe, or maybe their offensive play can get a little bit better from that. But a lot of the Brewers players outside of Trevor McGill not happy with the torpedo bats. But a lot of the offensive players, including Christian Yelich, not pointing the finger to those bats, not pointing the blame to them. I mean, they are, I guess, from MLB standards, they are legal. The thing that I'm just like, okay, if this was legal and such, how did it take so long? Or why wasn't this thought of beforehand? I mean, an MIT coach, I think he's with the Marlins now, he used to be with the Yankees and that, but it's like, okay, if you could have done this a long time ago. How did it take for now for somebody to figure out, hey, let's put this amount, the most amount of wood in a bat where the guy hits it, and then it's to me, it's like I feel like there's more to this. Not trying to be conspiracy theory or anything like that, but I feel like if this was legal and Major League Baseball says it's legal, which fine, whatever, it is. How did it take so long for somebody to figure this out? I don't know, but we'll talk some baseball and look ahead to home opener today. Maybe you've seen a little bit on social media and such, but the Brewers posting some images and some videos of what American Family Field is going to look like today in honor of Bob Uecker. Looks like there's a signature on the outfield and a banner also in the stands with one of his famous of many lines. I must be in the front row and such. So I'm sure it'll be a very, very, very emotional day at AmFam Field today. So, but we'll talk some baseball throughout this morning, and it's not much better when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks. You want to talk about a dreadful performance? Look at last night's game against the Hawks. Oh, I mean, have some pride playing some defense for crying out loud, Milwaukee. I mean, good googly moly falling to the Hawks 145 to 124. I mean, you had a halftime score of in the 80s from the Hawks. 37, 45, 36, and then they finally cooled off with 27 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, if you were listening or watching the game, I mean, the transition D from the Bucks was just absolutely dreadful. I mean, offensively, Bucks, I mean, putting up 124 points, and they were up after the first quarter, dropping 44 points. But it was like whenever the Bucks would go on a run and putting up these, they wouldn't get back on D, and they would stink at playing defense. And then you only come out at halftime putting up 17 points, getting outscored 36 to 17 in the third quarter. It was awful. Kevin Porter off the bench had 28 points. Kyle Kuzma was feeling it early in the game. He had 25, Giannis 31. But the defensive performance from the Bucks was just yuck. And now they're riding a 4-game losing streak as they start to wrap up this regular season right now. And it sure looks like the Bucks are going to be a 6 seed when it comes to the postseason, and that means facing the New York Knicks in the first round, because right now the Bucks are 1.5 back from the Pistons, who are in the 5th spot. They're now 3 games back from the Pacers for that 4th spot. So things ain't looking that great. Not looking that great for the Bucks here as we start to wrap up this regular season. They've got the Suns coming to Milwaukee tomorrow night here, but we've got 74 games in and just 8 more to go, and not feeling too confident with this Bucks team, I'll tell you. But T-Wolves helped them out a little bit last night. They did beat the Pistons 123 to 104. So, and looking like that final series against the Pistons, if they could keep it close, maybe that'll decide between a 6 or a 5. Who knows? But yeah, not great when it comes to Milwaukee baseball and Milwaukee basketball right now. So I'll throw a little hoops chat in there. Speaking of hoops, we've got the Final Four for the men's Division I basketball tournament, all 1 seeds. So if you picked all 1 seeds, like my kid, you're probably feeling pretty good about your bracket right now. So, but it's Houston, it's Duke going up against each other. It's Auburn and Florida. They're going to be going up against each other. So that's how it's all shaped up to be. All chalk, all 1 seeds into it. For the women's side, They'll wrap up their Elite Eight today. We know 2 of the 4 Final Fours, and they're both 1 seeds. UCLA advanced. This is what was surprising to me. UCLA for women's basketball, first time they've advanced to the Final Four in program history. South Carolina also going to the Final Four. So we've got USC versus UConn tonight, and then Texas versus TCU. Little in-state game there. Both 1 versus 2 matchups in that. So we'll see if on the women's side for Division One, if it'll be all 1 seeds again there too. So, and speaking of college, shout out UW River Falls women's hockey D3 national champs again. So a little bit of a local flair there. So shout out to UW River Falls women's hockey national champs again for Division 3. But we'll do some local sports roundup with our guy, Justice Cleveland, sports director, WEAU 13 News. We'll hit that up coming up in the next hour. We'll continue our Packers potential prospect preview series as we inch closer and closer to the NFL draft. Tomorrow will be April, and we'll just be a couple weeks away from the draft in Green Bay. So we are going to take a look at a couple of prospects here. Again, if you're not familiar with what we kicked off last week, we take a look at a couple of draft picks, either for the Packers' first-round pick or maybe early day 2, kind of around there, of some realistic potential targets for the Packers. So we've really focused on corners, edge rushers, defensive line, and wide receivers so far. And that's going to be the theme for today. And we're going to take a look at a couple more players. And it's going to be on the defensive side here. And we're actually going to take a look at 2 corners today. Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky and Jahdae Barron from Texas. So we'll take a look at those 2. And these 2 guys, if you've been looking at some mock drafts, maybe you're starting to get into mock draft territories and such. So maybe you've seen these guys. They've been mocked to the Packers and various ones over there. We'll give you a little bit of a scouting report on those guys and kind of give you a little bit of a preview on that. So also it is Monday, which means fill in the blank time. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying what? Let me know. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or hit me up on the video streams or hit me up on the socials at DANKASPER and then Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. Let's get into it, though, shall we? Let's talk a little Brewers baseball to open it up. Maybe you want to vent a little bit from the opening weekend, or maybe you're, you know what? We can't go 158-3 without losing 3 games. Maybe you're the glass half full type of approach, or maybe you're not panicking after just 3 games. But if you want to vent a little bit from what we saw over the weekend, get it off your chest. A little Monday version of, I guess, a grind my gears, if you will. But let's begin this morning talking some baseball and some Brewers baseball. All right, so let's jump right into it. We got our first break, and we'll get things rolling here this morning. All right. I want to hear from you, though. Okay? What's on your mind this morning? Let me know. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Your new go-to spot in the Chippewa Valley is the VFW Post 305, located on Star Avenue in Eau Claire. Whether you're looking for somewhere for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or a place to hang out with some great entertainment and events, you can't beat what the VFW Post 305 has to offer. A great food item, a wide selection of beverages, and even bands on the weekend. So if you're looking for some entertainments, VFW Post 305's always got something going on. Plus, with spring here and summer around the corner, even though it doesn't look like that outside right now, you cannot beat the view of their patio facing the river. So the next time you're thinking about where to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, or just have a good old time, the answer is simple. It's the VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue in Eau Claire. All right, let's get things going here this morning. Our lead off talking some Brewers home opener later on this afternoon. First pitch 1:10. If you're stuck at work, don't forget to turn on the radio dials at 105.1 FM and 790 AM to check out the game here. But before we talk a little bit about the home opener, let's recap the weekend series against the Yankees where they got swept. And obviously the big story from that weekend series has been bats, torpedo bats. Your thoughts on the torpedo bats? Are you of the Trevor McGill thought process where he's not happy about them? Or are you on the other side where some of the offensive players like Rhys Hoskins from the Brewers said he's already got some ordered? What are your thoughts on it as a fan? Hit me up with the text 715-830-1912. We're going to take a quick phone call from our guy who he hit some home runs back in the day himself, Mr. Seabaum. Good morning, Seabaum. How are you?
Good morning, El Capitano. All reliving those old days where they bring it to you 7 miles an hour, huh?
Hey, you know what? Watching the series, it reminded me of, not that too long ago, seeing you tattooing some balls out of the ballpark, and that's why you became a Class D slow pitch softball MVP, man. Well, it was just giving me some flashbacks of that.
Fun times, my brother. Hey, I wanted to talk a little bit about these torpedo bats. I wanted to get your take. I'm sort of on the fence myself. You know, first off, let's get a bigger sample size. Is it the bats, or did we really suck at throwing the ball across the plate there this weekend, just feeding them up some pills, you know?
Mm-hmm.
First off, the Yankees lineup is brutal, but these bats, okay, if the bats make that big of a difference, in my opinion, and maybe I'm old school, get rid of the damn things. And the reason for that is these guys are so big, so strong. The strike zone has shrunk so much. The pitchers are already at a disadvantage. You know, and I get Major League Baseball probably loves it because it's going to add scoring. It's going to add excitement to the game. It's going to add home runs. But this is PEDs all over again. It's just put into the bat.
Mm. Yeah, I'm. That's part of me. Like I was wondering too. Like, okay, you make a good point. If they continue to do this, if this continues to be a trend, in that, I do wonder if that next off season or something, like we see it in the NFL, right? I mean, the big thing is the tush push or whatever. Are they going to put a rule in there to, put a limit on these or ban these torpedo bats? Like for me, if they're legal and Major League Baseball is saying they're legal, like the part of me is wondering, like, and I get it was an MIT guy that figured it out, but how did it take so long for somebody to figure this out? Like, hey, let's design a bat where we put the most amount of wood in the sweet spot of the bat, so that's why it'll allow the ball to carry off that bat. I feel like there's more to this.
That's a great point. Great point, and I didn't think of that so much. I mean, none of us thought of it, but to your point, how did it take this long to figure that out? And if you really look at it, look at the shape of a bat. The medius portion is up on the end where you don't want to hit it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, great idea. But yeah, I'm really torn, man. I like to see offense, but I want to see legit offense, and I don't want it to become a pinball game. You know, it's kind of like going from aluminum in college. Now they got these composite bats, and it got crazy, and they had to dial it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you remember back in the early mid 2000s, when composite bats really hit the market, man, balls were flying out of cities, not just stadiums, right? So, is there going to be an alteration? Again, very small sample size. Did you hear anything about this during spring training? Was this a thing, or did it just come up here in the first series of the season?
I didn't hear anything. The only thing and I kind of chuckled because everybody was like, well, Aaron Judge only hit 1 home run in spring training, and the dude's already got 4 in 3 games. But I didn't hear anything about torpedo bats in spring training. Did you?
I heard nothing about them until this series. And boy, I'll tell you what, boy, the Yankees, they're putting up football scores for crying out loud. So again, is our pitching that decimated, or is that lineup with those bats just that untouchable? Put those things in the hands of the Dodgers. Now let's see what happens as these things spread across MLB. I'm really going to be curious to see how this changes the landscape of the game, at least for this season. If in fact they make that big of a difference. But boy, the way they were freaking knocking the ball all over the park this weekend, boy, I don't know.
Yeah, I know a little bit, short porch over there in right field, it helped, and wind or whatever, but I mean, it was, I think we need a bigger sample size, but you're right. If the sample size continues to show what it is, it'll be interesting to see what the reaction's like, or if other teams are going to have issues with it. But I don't fault Rhys Hoskins by saying he put an order in for them. Why not? If it's legal, go do it, right?
Absolutely. Why would you put yourself at a disadvantage? I don't know who wouldn't. And I'm curious to see, again, having a background playing baseball, and you as well, baseball, softball, does it take away that end-loaded feeling? Is it more of a balanced feel? I'm curious to what the batters feel like the swing does with the weight and the mass of the bat shifted. It's interesting subject.
Yeah, it is. It reminded me of the Ultra 2s from our Mike and Ultra 2s back from our slow pitch days there, big boy, where they had to ban that bat.
Oh, man. Those things were sick. You could hit softballs out of friggin' baseball stadiums with it. It was unbelievable. So, yeah, great stuff. I'm curious to see what happens. I'm curious to hear your take and other listeners' takes. But, I can shut myself up and let the listeners get back to what they're on for and hear you talk some more about it. But I appreciate you taking my call, Dan.
All right, you got it, C-Bomb. Good to hear your voice. Talk to you soon, okay, bud?
You bet. Have a great day. Go Brewers. Go Brewers.
All right, there you go. C-Bomb hopping off on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line. But again, if you're not too familiar with the talking point from over the weekend with this series in Major League Baseball, I mean, if you were watching Sunday Night Baseball last night, even Manny Machado, who was mic'd up, was talking about the torpedo bats and such. But and apparently an MIT physicist, Lenny, invented the torpedo barrel. It brings more wood and mass to where you most often make contact as a hitter. The idea is to increase the number of barrels and decrease misses. And if you were watching the game, or if maybe you saw some images of the game and such, you probably see why they call it a torpedo bat. I mean, it looks like a torpedo. The design and the shape of it. And so I was looking a little bit. I mean, MLB.com has it up. Kind of a little bit of a deep dive piece on it. And, the one question I had too is anyone else using the torpedo bat? And this was from MLB.com. The Yankees have captured plenty of headlines with their use of torpedo bats, but they're not the only ones deploying the strategy, or at least thinking about it. Where you hit the ball, put some more mass in the sweet spot. I think that's not something that's unique to the Yankees, said the Baltimore Orioles hitting coach, Cody Ash. I think a lot of teams are doing that around the league. The Yankees may have some more players that have adopted it at a higher rate, but I think if you were on the clubhouse, all 30 teams, you would see a guy or two that's kind of adopting a bat that's kind of fashioned more specifically to their swing. Rays third baseman Junior Caminero confirmed to reporters that he used a torpedo bat during his pinch hit appearance. He said he will continue to use the new bat sometimes throughout the season. So back to the Orioles hitting coach, he said some players have dabbled with the torpedo bat. He also noted that the organization has, quote, people working on it behind the scenes too. White Sox manager Will Venable first heard about the torpedo bats Sunday morning, saying, quote, I think that everyone across the league probably is now going to be looking into using into using these. So it seems like some people kind of knew about it. Some probably first they heard about it was over this weekend against, in this Yankees and Brewers series and such. So, but it isn't for everybody. Looking at some of the quotes here, as Stephen Vogt, Guardians manager, said at the end of the day, whatever feels best for each player. It's still a human that has to hit it. It's not the bat hitting the homer. I think that's a complete individual feel thing for each person. Among players, Judge isn't the only one with a preference for the norm. What does it say here? Oh, Padres outfielder Brandon Lockridge spent parts of 8 seasons in the Yankees farm system and tried using a torpedo bat in previous spring training, but he's sticking to his original bat, at least for now. So, but definitely, I think you're going to see a lot more players at least try this. Now, I was reading a little bit yesterday too. Cody Bellinger first tried it in spring training, and he talked about it took a little bit of an adjustment too. So I'd be curious, with these players, whether there is a Rhys Hoskins who is, apparently ordered some of these bats. How much of an adjustment would it take for those players to get used to a bat like that? Like, I don't know if they could just, if let's say Rhys Hoskins gets his shipment today, does that mean he's going to play today's game with his new torpedo bat? Probably not. It's probably going to take a little bit of an adjustment too. I mean, if the weights and the weight distribution of the bat's a little bit different and such, I don't think they would go in there, right away with a game and try it. Probably try it with a little BP and some workouts until they get a little bit more accustomed to it and such. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? A lot of you right now texting in saying you don't like it. I don't know if it's because it was your team, that it was the Brewers that did it. Now, what if the Yankees did it against the Guardians or some other team? Would you care as much about it? Would you care as much about it? Or, would it you'd probably still be talking about it. You'd probably still be learning about it and still probably be a story out there, right? I mean, insert the Guardians instead of the Brewers and the same results. It's probably still a major league headline. It's still probably a big time, story out there for baseball. But is it because it's the Brewers, because it's your team, or maybe for a lot of you who are texting in right now that you're not in favor of that? Is it because it happened to your team? Or would you have these same feelings if it was a different team that was the victim from this? So put that into maybe it's a little bit of the thought process. But at least right now, from a lot of the texters, it is a clear majority. And I'm talking not quite 100%, but probably in the 90 percentage range, that a lot of you right now saying, no to the torpedo bats. No to the torpedo bats. So you had Rhys Hoskins, you had Christian Yelich not using it as an excuse. Trevor McGill, though, was on the opposite side of things, or opposite side of the opinion of these torpedo bats. He said, let me bring up the exact quotes here from Brewers closer Trevor McGill. Where did it go? My computer just froze up. But essentially, he called it bowling pin bats and such. And he is not a huge fan of this. Here we go. Now it's finally loading up here. He says that he thinks it's terrible. I think it's terrible. We'll see what the data says. I've never seen anything like it before. I feel like it's something used in slow pitch softball. It's genius. Put the mass all in one spot. It might be Bush League. It might not be, but it's the Yankees, so they will let it slide. But again, the shape of the bat is within the scope of the league rules, according to Major League Baseball Rule 3.02. Quote, the bat shall be a smooth, round stick, not more than 2.61 inches in diameter at the thickest part, and not more than 42 inches in length. The bat shall be one piece of solid wood. Furthermore, the experimental bats can't be used until the manufacturer has secured approval from Major League Baseball of his design and methods of manufacture. So they are approved again by Major League Baseball. Reese Hoskins, quote, said, I didn't see it until after the game. They figured out a way to make it work. Logically, it makes a lot of sense, but I'm not a physicist. But how could I not want to look into it more? I've already talked to some bat companies since the game to see if I could get my model made like that just to see what it's like. We'll see. Just because it worked for somebody doesn't mean it'll work for everybody. Hitting is such a feel thing, but I'd try it. So your thoughts, are you in the clear majority of our texters right now by saying that this is no, or are you of the mindset like, no, if it's legal by Major League Baseball, it's fine. And for all of you who said no, that you don't like the torpedo bats, take the Brewers out of it. If this was, again, the Guardians, if this was the A's, if this was the Rays, would you have such strong feelings on the bat? Try to take away the personal feel of it. Try to take away you know, the try to take away the fact that it was your favorite team that was maybe the victim of this. I don't know if I want to say the word victim, because that seems, it's kind of, I don't know, that seems a little dramatic at that point, but try to take away that it happened to your favorite team. Would you have that same mindset? Honestly, I don't want to speak for everybody, because I'm sure a lot of people would say yes, you'd still have that same mindset, but honestly, I feel like if you took away that it happened to your favorite team, you maybe don't have as strong feelings with this. I guess I'm of the opinion right now that I think Trevor McGill probably overreacted. Not probably, he did overreact quite a bit. I mean, I don't know, the whole Bush League thing there. That's no. And if it is legal, which it is, Major League Baseball again has says it's legal. If it's legal, all right. I hope other players try this to see if this helps them out. Maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, then go back to what works for them. If it is legal, why not? I mean, I think some of these players would be stupid to not try it. Try something that's within the rules that might make you a better hitter, a better player overall. So I hope Reese Hoskins tries it. I hope other players try it. And if it works for them, you know what? Maybe in a couple months, if they've tried it and they're having success at it, these fans who are probably up in arms about it right now, that are pissed about it and want this bat banned. But if their team all of a sudden starts to use it and starts to have success with it and starts to put up some amazing numbers and starts to just blow out teams, they're probably going to be like, all right, this is fun. Yeah. What took us so long to do this? Let's keep it going here. Or maybe you're just, it doesn't matter. I'm sure there's going to be a few people out there that will say, no, doesn't matter. Ban it regardless. Ban the torpedo bats regardless. What are your thoughts? All right. Hit me up with an opinion. All right. We'll take a quick break here and we'll wrap up the first hour. A lot of you chiming in on this, though. We'll get to some text coming up in just a little bit. Easy math question for you. When you add spring and baseball together, what do you get? That's it. That's simple. That's a simple math question. It's brats. Fire up those grills for some tailgate parties or backyard barbecues this spring with some brats from Mike's Star Market, whether it's the Bloody Mary or some beer brats. Mike's Star Market has so many different options of brats for you to choose from that you will be the talk of your tailgate party or neighborhood cookout. Celebrate the beginning of spring and baseball season by making a stop at Mike's Star Market, located on the west side of Eau Claire. Maybe some of you heading over to the home opener later on this afternoon. Maybe some of you already on the roads heading down to Milwaukee. If you are, drive safe, depending on what area of the state you're in and such. With the road conditions and that. But be safe, travel safe out there. We got let's go through a few texts. We got quite a few here. And a majority of people saying to get rid of it. We have one texter, Chris, saying, I saw a lot of people on social media saying that Aaron Judge doesn't use the bats. So what's the big deal? My big deal is seeing people like Jazz Chisholm have 3 home runs who never hit over 20 home runs in his career. Now he's probably going to hit 40. This is the issue I have with these bats, is making these players become home run kings when throughout their whole career they weren't home run kings. Another texter says, I'm not in favor of the bats. I think it doesn't make an even playing field and puts the pitcher in even a tougher position than they already are. Another texter says, get rid of these bats and make everybody hit with the same style of bat to level the playing field. Other texters, though, who say they don't care, honestly, let them use the bat, and people got to stop being so critical. If the Brewers were the ones to have the bats and everyone would love it, strategy is part of the game. Yankees found something that helps them and supports their strategy. Let them use the bats and find a way to pitch better. Another texter says, don't have a problem with the bats. Let others adjust to it, and maybe some of those players who are complaining about it should try those bats to see if their hitting would get better. And then Greg says, not in favor of the bats. Don't need to give really good hitters even more of an advantage. Everybody should just use the same type of bats. And then we just got a bunch of other texts just saying no to the bat or yes to the bat, but still the majority saying no to the bat, at least those who have texted. But I'd love to hear your opinions. Okay, hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. So we'll definitely get back to some more baseball talk throughout this morning and get to your thoughts on this. We'll talk a little bit about the home opener coming up later this afternoon, as the Brewers will welcome the Kansas City Royals to American Family Field. Again, you probably saw, if you are on Facebook or maybe even X/Twitter, Brewers revealing a little bit of some photos or some videos of what the field looks like. You maybe saw some of the pictures with the big banner saying, I must be in the front row at the top level of the American Family Field. One of the very, very famous lines from Mr. Bob Uecker. So they've got that. They've got his signature on the field. That was in a video that they released last night too. Looks like it's kind of in between. It's in the outfield, but kind of halfway, a little bit close to right behind the second base, excuse me. So back there too. But definitely, I got to imagine probably going to be a very, very, very emotional day for a lot of people within the Brewers organization, especially the radio peeps, Jeff Levering, Elaine Grindle, even the TV peeps with Rock and such, and just everybody within the Brewers organization, because it's a home opener without Uecker on the mic. So it's definitely going to have a different feel. I would say even more a different feel than even what it was last Thursday on opening day on the road. So, but it's probably going to be a very, very, very emotional day for a lot of people within that Brewers organization and Brewers fans too. Let's not, yes, we got to hear a couple Brewers games on the radio in the regular season this past weekend and spring training, but I think today it might hit Brewers fans a little bit more considering it is the home opener. So, but yeah, we'll talk a little bit about this matchup coming up here in coming up in the next hour, and so we'll hit that up and talk a little bit about the previews and such. And I don't want to overreact to just 3 games, but honestly, I'm pretty, I know bats are the main topic of conversation here with the Brewers, but I think maybe we need to focus on the pitching of the Brewers and looking at, do they got enough arms, for crying out loud? I mean, Aaron Savale had to leave the game early, and his pitch count was getting up there through 3 innings, but he's got a hamstring issue now. And I mean, Nestor Cortez, whatever that type of performance was on Saturday. And now they've got, openers coming up for the next couple of days. I know everybody wants to talk about bats, but I think the biggest issue right now for the Brewers, in my opinion, is this pitching staff and the health of the pitching staff. And for crying out loud, or we need to get some guys back and healthy. All right, Quintana, can you hurry up and maybe get ramped up here and get into this rotation and such? So that's my biggest concern coming out of these 3 games is what is this pitching staff going to look like going forward in the immediate future? I mean, yes, Tobias is going to be back, hopefully still by the end of April, and it's still March right now, March 31st. So, I mean, you're talking about a few weeks yet. Hopefully Quintana is back after this turn or maybe the next turn. But holy moly, that to me is the bigger bothersome from this team. If we had to, throw out a question, what's your biggest concern? And maybe that's the better question. If we did an informal poll, what's your biggest takeaway from this opening weekend series? Is it the bats or is it the Brewers pitching right now? And I guess if I voted, I'd probably put the Brewers pitching, to be honest with you, because it's health and it's the performances that we saw from Cortez and for some of these other guys. So that's my biggest takeaway. It's my biggest concern right now. And hopefully they can get through this without digging themselves into a major, major hole. But if I'm Matt Arnold and I'm the general manager for this Brewers team, I'm at least like, okay, what can I do to bolster up this roster, bolster up this depth of this pitching staff? Because, man, it is decimated right now. We're 3 games in and we're already throwing out a word, decimated, when it comes to this pitching staff. Even Pat Murphy throwing that word out there with his starting pitching staff. That to me is the biggest thing I probably take away from this opening weekend series against the Yankees. So what about you? How concerned are you with this pitching staff and the depth and the health and what we saw the first 30 games? Ooh. Hey, at least Sal Frelick, I mean, that if we want to take away some positives from this 30 games, Sal Frelick's their best hitter right now. Maybe you look at that, I guess. I mean, dude's hitting 455. Bryce Strang's already got four runs scored, and he's tied for RBIs on the team with 3. So, yeah. All right. Well, shot clock's going to cut me off here in about 30 seconds. So we'll talk some more Brewers coming up in the next hour, but continue to send me your thoughts on the bats and such if you want to vent about it a little bit or vent about this opening weekend series. You can continue to text those on over. We'll talk some hoops. Maybe you want to vent about this Bucks team. What an awful defensive performance last night from the Bucks. Have some pride in the defense. Good Lord. I mean, watching that game a little bit last night and just seeing their effort in transition D was pitiful, and it would make even middle school basketball coaches, high school basketball coaches really upset watching the effort in transition D or even just defense overall from the Bucks last night. It was bad. So we'll hit that up, and then coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll continue our potential Packers prospect series. We're going to take a look at a couple of corners, Jahdae Barron and Maxwell Hairston. Plus, send me your, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Second hour on this icy start to your Monday morning, the final day of March, coming at you March 31st. A big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you are tuning in. If you are on the roads, though, just travel, safe, especially if you're heading down to Milwaukee for the home opener. Again, first pitch for that game is going to be at 1:10, and you can listen to it at your place of business, at your work, on the radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. So we got Rodriguez getting a start. I know it's not probably a name that, and Pat Murphy alluded to it too a little bit, saying, I know our fans probably want, I'm paraphrasing, big name starter and such out there, but that's just kind of the hand they're dealt with at this point.
They have one big name starter right now.
Exactly. Exactly. So we'll see how it goes and such, but that voice you hear is our good friend, Mr. Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire, WEAU 13 News. How goes it, sir?
Goes well. Well. Be careful out there. It's very icy out there still. So if you're out walking around, even just be careful. There's ice everywhere.
Yes. So I know a lot of the golf courses that opened up, but I don't think they'll be open today, unfortunately.
No. This whole week looks kind of iffy.
Yeah, but I guess that's Wisconsin.
Right. April, March, you know the story. It happens every year. You never know what we're going to get, and that's definitely what we've seen already in the last 4 or 5 days. So.
Right. So I know it's kind of a transition into, spring sports and such as well, but, we mentioned it a little bit earlier. Shout out UW River Falls women's hockey national champs again. So
back-to-back champions. Got a chance to see them play couple times against the Blue Golds, and very talented team. That is as they've been for the past decade.
Right.
And for them to go back to back, especially on Friday night, they got down and things could have went, it's 2-1 in the second, backs against the wall against Augsburg, and they turned it on, got the win there. And then, that second period yesterday to get 3 goals and then hold off in the third period. Congratulations to the Falcons. And what a year for hockey, for women's hockey in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
To have the Badgers win it and then have River Falls win. It's kind of like volleyball a few years ago when the Blue Golds won it and the Badgers won it as well. It's really cool to have that kind of dichotomy in this state with those two doing it. So, congratulations to the Falcons. And it's always nice to bring home those NCAA championships in our state.
Yeah. Can we get a friendly little matchup between the two now? I mentioned that one in volleyball a few years ago. Maybe we can get River Falls and Badger hockey. A little friendly one.
A little friendly.
Yeah. Over at Hobbs.
There we go.
Kind of halfway, closer for River Falls, but still. Yeah.
We'll take it, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure River Falls, give it to somebody else's arena. They
right.
love the Hunt Arena, which was the host for this past weekend's events for the Division III. Very nice arena, and I think getting showcased like it did there, and again, to River Falls to win it in your own backyard too. It's just got to be been a cool weekend all around for the Falcons.
Exactly. And we got to give a shout out to our good friend, Coach Leslie Huntington. 600 victories as the Blue Gold softball continue their fantastic start to the season, too.
They got to the lucky 13th in a row there, and then unfortunately, the streak got it's a 2-1 defeat there earlier in the week against Northwestern, but then start a new streak.
Yep.
And then that second win, got Leslie to 600, only the third coach in team history to ever get to 600. I mean, Lisa Herb and Ken Anderson, those are esteemed names to be joining there. And Leslie's, national champion winning coach, and just a pleasure to talk to and work with. And it's just been fun to watch these teams. And this team this year, wow. What a start to the year, and keep it going once they actually can play some games outdoors too.
Right.
They did it in Florida, so I'm not saying they can't play outdoors, but I'm sure they love having the sun intake, and you're able to get those games in, but I think they'll be ready to get outdoors when they can.
A 644 career winning percentage for her too.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
That's a team that every year has a chance to go to the NCAA tournament and win a WIAC championship. And that's really just all the athletes that you can shovel on there for Leslie of what she's done for that team and for that Blue Golds program.
Yep. So I can't wait for when the WIAC portion of the schedule comes up. I think that's going to be a dandy, like it is a lot of years too. But still,
I mean, it was nice for them to go down and had that great Florida swing there and just bring it back up here. And now, what are they, like 17-3? I believe on the season. That's just what a start.
And then we got to give a shout out Stricker, Wyack Wrestler of the Year. I mean, a couple national champions could do that for
Wyatt,
you, but you know,
be the wrestler of the decade at this point, and for what he did in his career there. I mean, the wins, pins. I mean, 2 titles. Just all the accolades. I mean, really, when we'll be thinking back decades from now on, you think about that wrestling team, and I'm sure somebody else will come through and have a great career. But I mean, Stricker, what he did in those last 4 years has just been amazing.
Absolutely. So, and I know, you know, we did talk a little softball there, but transitioning into that spring season, baseball, coming off some tough games against the number 1 team in the country.
Right, Whitewater is stacked.
Yeah. So we've got they're going up against St. Olaf, and we'll see about the UW Stout game scheduled for this weekend at Carson Park. So it might be a little tough.
I know it doesn't look as bad Friday and Saturday, but it depends on how much snow. If we get some on Wednesday, what's going to happen there? And unfortunately, you can't really do baseball in the Sonnentag. Softball you can, baseball will be a little bit hard. So
yes. So please, weather gods, can we just get into baseball around here now?
Yeah.
Just let's do it.
And somewhat golf.
Yes, golf, please.
Consistently.
You know, speaking of golf, I mean, this is, you know, sticking on the blue. I'm really excited to see this men's team pick up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know you and I have talked about it, and just what they've done the last, you know, year plus, and they're going to begin their season coming up this Friday. They're going to be in Illinois, but I mean, you're talking about a highly ranked squad here with the potential to do some pretty awesome stuff here in the next month or so.
Yeah, and they've got some really good facilities now to, you know, they've been adding on to it. It seems like every year.
Yep.
And then that's the big key is like being able to get that year-round work, which has become part of golf, and that they can do that. And then obviously when you're already super talented, get out there and get a couple of those, you know, get outside and get that feel. It's different to be, I mean, anybody can tell you can hit on at a simulator or you can hit off at
wiffle balls and all that stuff.
But once you got to get to that real feel of hitting it off the ground. And I think they're going to hit the ground running this year, and it's going to be fun to see what they can do and continue. And Coach Skinner just keeps elevating that team every year.
Absolutely. So, we'll get closer. And I think Brandon mentioned Friday, you know, on the high school level, we got some more kind of starting practice this week too.
Yeah, well, I think everything's pretty much going now because we had indoor track and field last year, a few softball games scattered here and there. Unfortunately, I think Rice Lake was up and they played in Rhinelander on Friday, but then like the dome there, the Hodag Dome, ended up getting some damage from the storm. So you hate to see that. So that's right. That's a tough part for you get those indoor places to play. It's great to have those facilities now, but that's what kind of looks like they'll be out for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We're already in softball. I know everything else is pretty much started. Track and field, a ton of events were going on over at Stout and UW Eau Claire this past week. So that indoor track and field season, I remember those back in my track and field days. It's like, okay, then all of a sudden you just rip that Band-Aid out and you're running outside and it's like 45 degrees. And we used to have a meet every year early in the season that was in Sheboygan. If anybody knows about Sheboygan, if that wind's coming off Lake Michigan, it feels like it's 20 degrees out. And you're sitting out there, and it was always seemed to be raining and stuff like that. So it really put a damper in my Olympic hopes. It was. I blame the weather. That's why I didn't. You know, that the shot put throws of 30 feet weren't quite doing that.
That's awesome.
30. I wish.
I was gonna say 30. That's impressive.
I think my best was like 28.
Roger Steed might be like, dude, you know,
that's 30 meters.
I did see too the other day. I mean, even on the new field at Memorial, you had girls soccer getting some practice out on the field over there too.
And that'll be a fun thing to watch because I got a feeling that they're playing most of their games there now as they transition to that new field. So they'll be the first ones probably to play on that new field. And coming up here in a couple weeks here. So I mean, it's April's always that. What are we going to get? Hopefully we get some nice weather and these teams are able to get out there and compete, because we've had plenty of Aprils where they've been stuck inside and it's been raining the whole time. So let's see what Darren can do over there in the weather lab. And
come on, Darren, put the pressure on you now.
Get the concoction to make everything nice for the next month.
Alter the jet stream for us if you could, man. You know, I don't know how, but
get that Arizona, what it was like 97 degrees this last week. Let's get that coming up here.
Exactly.
Not 97 though.
No, but you do the average.
67, I would. Yeah, somewhere around there, we'll take it.
Because I'll be honest now, dude. I'm getting nervous about Green Bay with this weather. I know we got plenty of time, but now I'm just like, oh, dude, please. because I don't want to do the show outside when it's like 30 degrees and snowy. You can do a little snow walla draft and have the epic, snowflakes falling down. I don't want to be outside doing a show for 3-4 hours.
Here's what I would say. Either we get in really nice weather or it is just like a huge snowstorm. Now, I don't think people trying to get into Green Bay are going to want a giant blizzard, but wouldn't the vision of an epic like April heavy snowstorm during the draft, especially that first round,
that
would just be perfect for like the frozen tundra thing. But
they got to get the Arians Hill snow covered so Murphy and Roger Goodell can go down it together.
There, yeah. Because the last time I was there, that hill was closed because that was for girls basketball and there wasn't any snow.
Put the snow back on there, man.
They got the machine. I'm sure they can get they can get that all going on there. But yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. But yeah, you just again when I was there for girls basketball, thinking of that area with that many people there.
Well, they already started closing down streets this past week. Like Lombardi's already closed.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the cluster that it's going to. That's what's giving me the anxiety now.
Right. Well, good luck to everybody in Green Bay too. For like, people don't realize how main of an artery that road is just for normal everyday traffic. That is your main road on the west side of Green Bay. So we have a lot of detours and a lot of people making their commutes an extra 10-15 minutes in Green Bay for the next month here.
A lot of those residential streets are going to be pretty busy.
Yeah,
with
that's where you need
if
anybody needs a guide, I'll be your local knowledge guide. You can hire me as like a Sherpa to get you.
You throw it out there, I might use you. So just saying.
Hopefully, my it's been 15 years since I've lived there. My knowledge of the back streets is still somewhat fresh.
Yeah, it was. I saw some the videos. So like the green guardrails that they have off of Lombardi, Lombardi and then the stadium.
Yeah,
they ripped them out.
Wow.
So it's like, I'm assuming it was an NFL thing. I'm like, so I hope the NFL's got to pay to put them back in, because now you just got these big holes in these concrete,
Yeah, you got to wonder how much of that money is from Green Bay. Because obviously you want the money that's coming in from the tourism.
Yep.
But how much of that is just you guys have to do this on your own?
Right.
And the NFL's just like, we'll tell you what to do, but don't expect to be. I bet you a lot of it is like that. I don't know for sure. But we're getting deep into the politics and the metrics of what goes into host an NFL draft and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see how much goes in. It's like the Olympics. You pay so much to host the Olympics.
Yeah.
How much do you make after all of that? We'll see what Green Bay invests in and how much they make. But I think they're going to make a lot of money. I mean, the amount of people that'll be there.
Yep, definitely. So have you decided if you're going to head over there yet or not?
I plan on being there.
Yeah.
At least the first day or two. I want to see the spectacle cover, get that first draft pick out in there and stuff like that. It's just going to be, I'm staying down and I'll be down in like the Manitowoc area at my in-laws. It's going to be interesting for like people trying to, the media, where do we go? Because there's really not been a whole lot of, honestly, has been a whole lot of guidance for us. To, like, how do we get to places? Because that whole area is going to be closed down.
Yeah, because I applied for credentials yet too, and I'm still waiting for info on everything.
I'm going to be parking by my house where I grew up on the other side of military there.
Yeah.
That's right. Where my parents lived there because I would walk if I had to. But yeah, it's going to be interesting with that whole perimeter.
Yep.
If you remember the Super Bowl, how big of a perimeter they had around US Bank. It's going to be similar to that. And that at least it'll be hopefully warmer than it was for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So surveyor says, have we heard a number of the amount of people that, and I don't think we'll know a number till after because I mean a lot of it's free, so people could you just
gotta register.
Which, by the way, the app, I don't know if anybody's tried registering because I've tried doing it just as a backup.
Yeah,
I can't. It won't let me because when I get to the point of pick the country you're from, it won't work. And it won't let me move on until you can't leave this space blank. But when I click on it, nothing happens or nothing drops down. NFL, figure it out. I've tried desktop. I've tried 2 different phones and it won't work.
Makes you feel any better? I'm having same kind of issues with the NFL media site, not letting me in for that right now. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's still pending for me on my credit. I keep checking and it's still so I submitted it, but it's still pending.
Right. Yeah. I can't even get to that point right now for some reason.
So okay.
Good times for all. Hopefully everybody else out
there. Way to go, NFL. Way to go.
Everybody else is having an easier time than we are.
So if anybody, used I'm curious if it worked for anybody for the draft access thing. For just it's that you got to sign up, and I don't know if they scan it when you walk through the free thing.
Right.
But I want to do it as a backup, in case, and it won't let me do it. It's been like this for weeks.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm surprised nobody has.
I mean, we're at that age where it could be user error too.
But I've tried desktop and 2 phones and different web browsers and everything, and it's like, what am I doing wrong here?
Let's get some IT help here for Dan.
Well, and because I was telling Brandon about it because he was asking questions how to do it, and he's like, "Oh, apps ranked 2.5 on Apple. You're probably not the only one having issues."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've tried for the last 4 weeks.
So you can't be the only one having it.
can't
Anybody
be.
else out there having issues, let Dan know.
I did my personal phone, my work phone, this computer, my office computer, another computer, and nothing.
See, mine.
Maybe they recognize my email and be like, "No, you're not coming."
Well, that was like the NFL one. Is like it gets me to a point, but it's like it tells me to enter a password. I don't have a password for this thing, and then I try to, and it won't. It's like resetting your password is not allowed right now. It's like, oh, okay, well that's a dead end.
Jeez.
So, anyways, this edition
I'm
of
really counting on I get approved for these credentials.
This edition of IT Gripes with Dan and Justice.
Our version of where I guess we're at that stage of old guys yelling at the air. So, dang it. All right, let's keep griping. Let's talk some baseball.
Does that grind your gears, Dan?
Yeah. Let's talk some baseball. We'll talk some torpedo bats and such. Yeah. Did you play slow pitch softball back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Did it give you some flashbacks of like, oh yeah,
looking at those bats? Oh, of course.
Yeah, I wanted to bust out my DeMarinis and all that, and kind of get back in the game and such. So we'll take a quick break though, and get back to some more Brewers talk coming up after these quick words. Have you started your spring cleaning yet? Hey, don't worry if you haven't. I haven't either. But spring cleaning doesn't have to be just dusting the shelves or cleaning the windows. It should also be doing for some updating and remodeling in your home. And now that maybe you have some extra money from your tax return, don't you want to invest it into something that will last? But what do you invest in? Well, that's new floors, whether it's your home or workspace. Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire is your flooring headquarters. If it's carpet, luxury vinyl planks, or tile you seek, they've got the best options at the best prices in the area. Our family has used Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire many times over the years, and we've been so impressed with each project, from carpeting the stairs and bedrooms to tiling the man cave and vinyl floors in the laundry room. Carpet City Flooring Center has helped us select the best floor for each project that fits our budget, and they will do the same for you. And can't wait because they're also helping out with our studio projects, new studio projects over there too. So, but if you are in the market for some new flooring, give them a visit and let the team at Carpet City Flooring Center help you totally transform your space with some brand new, awesome looking floors. I was actually ripping up some of the old floors in our new Sports Talk studio. I'll tell you off the air what we're doing in there because I'm leaving a surprise for everybody else.
Okay.
But you are going to love this.
Ah, okay.
You are going to love this.
I'm very interested.
And
intrigued, some would say.
I don't know if Jason from Carpet City is listening right now, but he's got to be smiling too because we got something really cool planned for the new Sports Talk studio.
I like it.
Let's talk some more baseball this morning. Brewers starting the season 0-3, getting swept by the New York Yankees. Torpedo bats are a thing, and that's the main talking point. Even Manny Machado is getting asked about it being mic'd up during Sunday Night Baseball and such. I guess I'm of the okay, so it is legal. My thing is like, how did it take an MIT guy so long to like, hey, let's try to do this? I feel like there's something more to this.
Right. I mean, and then were they not using them in the spring? Are we all of a sudden just like discovering this? Like no one questioned the bats at all, like during the whole spring.
Right.
I feel like the Brewers, unfortunately, you're the first team to play. I mean, they just go off on historic home run rate.
Right.
Like if they don't hit those 3 in a row off 3 pitches, 4 in the inning in that second game, and then 9 total, do we really hear about these bats as much? But the fact that there's so many home runs given up by the Brewers, how many home runs do they end up giving up total in this series? It's 9 and it's got to be like 17.
It's got
somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'll double check it.
But yeah, I mean, like that was not how you want to start the season if you're the Brewers. And the starting pitching is thin, and it even got thinner after yesterday's game. And you knew Woodruff, that was going to be something like you didn't know when you're going to get him. But when Myers went on there, and now you're just sitting with
now Savali's got a hamstring issue apparently, and it's like, oh gosh. That's my biggest takeaway, I guess, is like this. And Pat Murphy already said they're decimated,
right,
with pitching. That's the biggest thing I take away from this weekend. Is like now I'm actually really worried about this.
Can we get Giovanni Gallardo? Is Wade Miley still playing?
Yeah. Well, the Reds signed him. Is he on their major league roster? Could we trade for him?
It's like, just can you find anybody on the scrap heap that's willing to come in and pitch a few innings? It's rough. I mean, I think we all kind of knew the pitching staff was going to be the biggest question mark coming into this season. You had a few, obviously, with the departures and stuff like that, but mainly that pitching staff is the biggest change. And it was not good. I mean, Freddie, for all purposes, wasn't horrible.
It makes Freddie's actually look really good at that point.
But after that, I mean, like to give up 3 home runs on 3 pitches is just crazy. 4 in the inning.
I was
after a great start by him too. Like his last start down in Arizona, he looked great. And then to have that. So how much is it the bats? I don't know how much is the bats. We'll find out more. I mean, there's such a small sample size. Or was it just the fact that the Brewers pitching is so thin?
Right.
And it was a warmer weekend, if I'm not mistaken, there in New York. So you have that. And then
wind was kind of, they already have a short porch and over there. But I was at a birthday party Saturday and I was following on my phone, kid's birthday party. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. I'm glad I'm maybe not watching this one.
Well, that was even for the opener. I went golf because that was the nice day on Friday. I went golfing and then I got a message from my buddies. It was like, oh, the Brewers starting off with historic. And I'm like, what's going on? And then it was the Wells home run to lead off. I'm like, oh, that's not a great. The Brewers, really good at giving up history. And that's what it was this last, not making it so much, but more giving it up there during this series. So the good news is Kansas City's not playing much better than the Brewers coming in 1-2, not hitting. They're hitting 2-8. Brewers are hitting better than the Royals. The Royals are at 218. The Brewers are at 230. And the Brewers scored more runs than the Royals in their first series. But again, you're on 3.
Yeah. So, we got the home opener today. We got Rodriguez, who's on the mound. Again, you're probably not too familiar with him, but this is the hand that the Brewers are dealt with right now when it comes to their pitching staff. But probably, I would imagine it's going to be whoever's going is probably going to be in a very emotional start. So you probably saw a little bit on Facebook and Twitter with the Euchre stuff, the big banner that's at the top of the row of some of the seats. I must be in the front row.
Yes.
Euchre's signature etched in the outfield over there too. So, I mean, it's probably going to be very emotional. And obviously spring training and then opening day. But this one I think is going to hit for like the Lane Grindles and the Jeff Leverings, the home opener.
Well,
with not having Euchre there.
Having, experienced a few of those home openers and being for Brewer games, Euchre was everywhere. He would sit down in that dugout and hold court pretty much before any big game and just, sit there and talk. And not just that, like with the players, the media, everybody. I mean, he was everywhere during those games. So I think that's really where you're going to be like, oh, man, this was a guy who was Milwaukee Brewers baseball.
Yep.
And he's gone. And it's really, I think, going to hit home when those guys go out there and they're like, okay, he's not here anymore. And you see
when
that,
you look up and
that front row, obviously the statue up in the stands there with Euchre.
And you could see where he would sit to broadcast the game. Any fan can look up there, and to look up there and not see him is probably when it's good. For me, if I was going as a fan and I look up there and I see, that's probably when it would really hit me.
Yeah. And that was, you'd be at even a spring training game and you'd look up there and be like, oh yeah, Euchre's doing the game today. And, it's just, it was almost, I don't know, like a security blanket in a way. Like when you went to Brewers games, he was there. It made you feel all warm and fuzzy because you knew Bob Euchre was doing the game. They're really the voice of Wisconsin summers.
Oh, and, to kind of, I didn't even think about this until now. If you were listening to the games this weekend, we probably could have really used Euchre with these 20-9 or 12-3 games to get through it a little bit better too.
Get one of those innings where he's telling the story and the game's almost, he's just in passing, say, oh, there's a strike on the outside corner. Anyways, when I was doing the Tonight Show, just like something like that.
Judge's third home run of the day. Anyways, back to,
right.
something like that. It's like, that we could have really used Euchre over this weekend.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just in the legacy that he's going to leave, and that somebody I've seen the post like it's the first time in 75 years baseball doesn't have Vince Scully or Bob Euchre doing a game. I mean, like just iconic people that unfortunately in my lifetime I've everybody passes and that's how it works. But I mean, I grew up and you had like the Dick Enbergs doing games. You had obviously like Harry Carey doing games too. I mean, I think Phil Rizzuto was still doing games when I was younger. Just a lot of these legendary. And that's baseball.
Jack Buck.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Jack. I mean, being a kid who grew up in Minnesota, listening to that 87, watching that 87 or 91 and 87 World Series with the 91 and Jack Buck, with the "We'll see you tomorrow night." So I mean, we've been blessed with these great voices. There'll be more great voices too, but it's almost just like that was such a special generation that that bridged the gap between the Joe DiMaggios of the world, back then. To now, that's I mean, baseball's always been about like that generationals, and those guys just bridged such a big gap.
And I listened to the opener on Thursday, and I apologize. I don't know if it was Lane or if it was Jeff that talked, but I thought a really cool statement that one of those guys said. This is and will always be Euchre's broadcast.
Yeah,
like even though he's not here, this is Euchre's broadcast.
Oh, exactly. I think if you think about like with the Cubs, it's still Harry Carey's broadcast.
Yep.
We're almost 25, 27 years since he passed away. But what are you doing in the 7th inning at a Cubs game? You're singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Yep.
And that's what Harry Carey started. It's anybody who comes after is always going to be in that shadow. Same with the Dodgers. I mean, it just kind of goes with, and now with the Brewers, there's an indelible legacy that will never leave, especially like you said, for those broadcasts.
Yep, exactly. So the game today, 1:10 again. Rodriguez going to get the start for the Brewers. Be really nice if we could get some length out of him, because this is a pitching staff and that has gone through, I mean, a lot of work for just 3 games. And remember, they don't have an off day until next Monday. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's, even before the game, maybe some movement, bringing in some guys and some fresher arms or such.
Telling everybody in the infield, stay loose. You might have to go in and pitch a couple innings at this point.
Bauer, sorry, you're not going to play offense or defense. We're keeping you in the pen just in case for a 3rd appearance already. So, but yeah.
What's the record for most consecutive appearances by a
position player? That's
Let's
a good
hope
question.
they don't break that today, but that would be a good question to see, like, what's the most? Brooks Kieschnick back in the day when he was the part-timer.
We need Sarah Lang to look that up from MLB.com because she's the one that always looks up that stuff.
Like, that's not what you want a record to be in, but man, I think they have a good chance. I think they can bounce back against this Royals team. Again, not a team that's hitting the cover off it. Obviously, they have some really talented players. Yep. So,
with the bat thing too, going back, because that is the hot button topic here. If it's legal, okay. I argue that if this was a different team other than the Brewers, we probably don't have a lot of our listeners frustrated about it, right? It's still a big topic in Major League Baseball, but for a local sense, it's probably not that much of an issue. However, I agree with like the Reese Hoskins, like he's like, all right, I placed an order. Why not try it then?
Right.
If you're some of these guys, if it has such a huge benefit and it's legal, why not try it?
Now, my question's going to be, now Major League Baseball saying they're legal.
Mm-hmm.
What if Aaron Judge has 20 home runs this month?
Mm-hmm. Now, he doesn't use one of those.
That's true. Okay, never mind.
But what if
that would
Jazz Chisholm, who's never had more than 20 in a
and
career.
It's 15 in like this month.
Yep.
At what point do you be like, okay, this is just going to make, like, it's like driver technology. It's like golf. If you have something that's just, if you have a driver that's letting you get way too much distance, at what point do you say, okay, this probably shouldn't fly?
Yeah.
And safety always becomes a big issue, especially with baseball. Somebody posted, saw a post like, well, why can't baseball players use a composite in Major League? It's like, do you know the bat speed? And like,
I wouldn't want to pitch.
No, exactly. So where are the bat speed? Like, what's the speed of the ball leaving? Like, that's what you're going to have to examine. Like, player safety would be the next thing up. But yeah, I mean, I'm one of those guys who home runs are fun. They're great, but I don't want the game to be home runs and home runs only.
I wonder, are we going to see, because I would imagine you're going to see more teams, more players experiment with this and such. And if it continues in that, how does Major League Baseball counter that?
Right.
Because is it going to be something with the ball? Are they going to alter dead ball again? Is that going to be something? Or how do they counter with that? Because it's going to happen, right? I mean, if they continue with this and we see these home run numbers just spike up, Rob Manfred in baseball is going to do something, I would imagine.
Right. I mean, we've had mound changes back in the day when Bob Gibson had his big year. Did something happen there? I don't know how much that makes a difference at this point. And yeah, I mean, you got to do something. You don't want it to get out of control. That's the main thing, is you want the game to remain baseball, not just home run ball. But I mean, unfortunately, I think last year we saw, obviously, with the rule changes and making it a little more fast and getting the guys on base and making it where the shift, little rules to make it like if your singles can be important again, instead of everybody just gearing up to try to hit a home run. But if the Yankees, why would you not just try to hit a home run? Even the worst thing, the Brewers lose that game, but they only give up 4 home runs in the first inning. It was still just 4 runs, and they actually battled back to get within 1 run. So, I mean, base hits still have a big part, and getting base runners on are huge. I just don't want home runs to take over the game and it being like, okay, every game's going to have 7, 8 home runs.
Right.
I know if there's fans out there who are like, oh, that's what I love. It's like, yeah.
Chicks dig the long ball,
right? Exactly.
It's the Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux and Mark McGuire commercial from back in the day.
With baseball, it's always funny because these things always come up during the season. Like, it's never like before, like them thinking ahead. It's always like, oh, this is happening right now. We'll deal with it next offseason. So now we're gonna have a whole, we probably have a whole season of this going on.
Yep.
And Rob Manfred. So I have no faith in him figuring it out.
Yeah.
While on the fly here.
It's going to be interesting, I think, once we get a bigger sample size, too. So, like, the Yankees are going up against the Diamondbacks, I think, starting, is it today or tomorrow? And I don't know what the pitching match is going to be like, but if it's Corbin Burns and Zach Gallen, going up against that lineup, and then they're giving up home runs and such, where those are at least really good pitchers.
Right. If it was just the Brewers pitching staff. Now, if this had happened, let's say this happened, they played the Red Sox on. I think it's even a bigger story.
Yeah.
If they, did this against the Red Sox, because I think Red Sox would be, and those fans would be complaining even louder.
Yeah.
And it would be because it's, the old East Coast and those two teams playing each other. It would probably make more noise. So we'll see. Like you said, sample size is small. And again, it could just be that the Brewers pitching was just not good.
Yeah.
That series, but we'll find out here soon.
Yep. All right, so we got to take a quick break before we finish up with JC here. I do want to talk a little hoops as well. We got Final Fours. We've got the Bucks who are limping into the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
Holy moly. So we'll wrap it up with some more hoops talk, but continue to send us your baseball stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes. We don't want to get in a situation, but what happens when your car breaks down and you need a tow? Who do you call? That's AJM Automotive, located on Brackett Avenue. Not only is AJM Automotive your go-to place when it comes to auto repairs, but they're also offering towing services too. And they offer a discounted towing rate for vehicles brought to their location. So if you get into a situation where you need to be towed and you need to have your vehicle fixed right up, AJM Automotive in Eau Claire has you covered. Just give them a call at 715-835-9523. About 10 minutes to the top, 10 minutes left with JC. So we know our final four for the men's, all chalk, all one seeds, which, of course, that's what my 7-year-old picked. And
that's a lot of brackets. Where the people that, not that I even know anymore. Like, it doesn't, my knowledge of college basketball is so much different than it would have been 10, 15 years ago. But I want to say I have 3 of the 4. I, at one point, had a 99.1 going into like the sweet.
Really?
During the Sweet 16.
Wow.
I picked Houston. No, not Houston. I picked, what did I pick?
Tennessee,
I picked
Alabama?
Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
I picked Kentucky over Tennessee, and I think I picked Kentucky to make it all the way. So I still have a chance to win because I picked Auburn as my champion. But because I didn't pick, it was funny because it was like I had like a 99, 98.
Yep.
The person below me had like 86, 85, but they're projected to have more points because I was stupid and picked Kentucky to make it to the championship game.
Well, our leaderboard for our bracket challenge, everybody can check it out by going to sportstalk1051.com and clicking on the leaderboard. But we've got Chris in first with 109. And in second is my 7-year-old.
Hey, again.
With 107. So he's tied with David. And then Bloomer Tony Jr., 105, sitting there in third. So it's the kiddos who are dominating right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, it's weird that we've kind of gotten back to where the ones dominate, where for a while there, it was like you didn't pick one because it just wasn't going to happen. Maybe you get one of them making it there.
Right.
Because there were just so many upsets. But this has been a pretty pedestrian tournament so far. There's been, I think we had the first game of the play-in was really exciting. And there's been a couple here and there, but most of them have been kind of not great games.
And I don't view Arkansas, even though they were 10, they were never a Cinderella in a Sweet 16. They're just not. So it was pretty chalkish heading. BYU we knew was a good team.
Right. I picked BYU. I mean, hate to say it, Badger fans, but that was one of those I looked at. I'm like, yeah, that's a team that can beat the Badgers.
Yep.
Which, we're talking hoops. And Badgers were a victim of this. And the Bucks get last night to even more extreme of we can outshoot the team. Yeah. Let's not play defense.
Yeah.
And for the Badgers to give up 91 points at a tournament game was unheard of. When I saw that 145 points,
it was 80 something at half.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, how are you? Was the team that was the best defensive team. Now, granted, that was 4 years ago at this point, 5 years ago, even. How quickly it's just fallen out. Grant, there's not this. Who's left from that team that's out there? But how is it just? How do you not play defense? I know the 3-ball is the big thing, but even like the Bucks, I think we're shooting. Someone put out there we're shooting like 60% at half.
Yeah,
and down 14.
Yeah, like I was watching a little bit last night. If I was a middle school, high school basketball coach, I'd be screaming at the TV the transition defense from those guys, and even they were talking about it. Kyle Kuzma was on fire. I mean, the Bucks were hitting threes, but then you have somebody wide open at the other end where the Hawks were just like, all right, up, boom, pat, easy bucket.
Right. So if no one's accounting for that other person and you're hitting threes, it doesn't matter if they're going to get an easy 2 if you're down, or even another easy 3 for them.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like the pride and the lack of effort. It seemed like on the half court defense, Kevin Porter was just getting dominated by Trae Young, and I know Trae Young's really good, but I mean, just willing their way to get into the hole, and it was like, oh my god! But you're right. It's like you got screw the defense. We're just gonna out hustle and outshoot them essentially.
And sometimes those games can just get. I mean, I've seen it not only in the pros, but in the college game, some of those tournament games, where it's just 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. And it just gets, I think obviously that's the way the game has gone. It's quick transition, fire, dish in, drive in, dish out.
Yep.
But it sometimes it just looks ugly especially when teams aren't hitting.
Yep. Yeah. The one thing that, that game last night too, and it's been a thing for the rest of the season, how this season overall for the Bucks is shaping out. What's getting lost, I think, is you look at Giannis's game, and for the longest time, what was it? Well, if he develops a mid-range, he's going to be. Giannis has developed this, at least this year, his mid-range game has taken a step.
Yeah.
I don't know if you haven't watched a game, like he did a couple times where, he's bringing the ball up the court and the defenders just kind of back down because they don't want him driving. So he pulls up and hits a mid-ranger and it's nothing but net. Or he's got now even a little turnaround and that's going in. But because the Bucks stink
on defense, yeah,
it's like, okay, he's got that, but it's just they're in the 6th seed right now, and that's probably where they're going to finish for the season because they're now 3.5 back from the Pacers for 4. Pistons are now ahead of them, 1.5 games ahead of them. And we're limping into this thing. It 1 and done, I think, for the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't give you a lot of hope. I mean, if you can get Dame back, we have still no timetable for that. I think there's hope that he can come back for the playoffs, but you're dealing with blood clots like that. We've seen that can linger on, or he could be back. But I mean, it's changed so much. Like for this team to not be able to play defense, and again, I know teams are just hyper athletic at this point, but I don't know, what are you hoping? That they're just going to shoot themselves out? Like they're going to go cold and you're going to be able to just keep, and that's kind of how the games are. There's 10-point swings like that in the NBA right now. But I mean, is there a way? Is there an ability to play lockdown defense anymore in this league?
At least Houston in college does with Kelvin Sampson.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe he needs to go back to the NBA to.
And
I
wonder if we'll
defense.
see a swing back to maybe more of a defensive mind. But I think with that too, you need to have players for the long term. I think defense develops with cohesion, and how much cohesion there is in obviously NBA. It's volatile. College basketball now, it's volatile. Even the Badgers, a team that was built, the Bo Ryans and Dick Bennett legacy, it's not there as much as it used to be.
Right.
And some of that's by design because you're moving so fast and shooting so fast that you want to maximize those possessions. Right. And you want to have more possessions. Where it used to be, Badger games were the lowest possession games because you waited until that shot clock was dead, and then you held the other team to the end of the shot clock. Well, I don't think it happens anymore, and I don't know. I'm not an X's and O's guy by any means, but can it happen anymore? Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Only got you for a couple of minutes left here, JC. So you want to make a prediction? Do the Brewers get a W today?
I got a feeling it happens.
Black Eyed Peas.
Woo-hoo! That the Brewers aren't gonna give up 5 home runs. They're not. No roof. The roof's closed.
Yep.
That's good news. So the ball won't be flying as much. Not that it would be 35-degree weather or 40-degree weather, whatever it is down there. But I think they can get it done. I think Kansas City hasn't been anything to write home about so far. It's 3 games, but if they at least the Brewers were hitting some. It wasn't so much the batter's fault. It was the pitching of giving up 30 runs in 3 games.
Yeah.
If not more than that.
I did look it up. So the Yankees, 15 home runs so far this season.
Okay, so 5 a game.
The next closest is a team that's already played 5 games, I think. Dodgers, 12. And then runs batted in, Yankees 35, Dodgers next 28. So
35 runs in 3 games.
Yeah.
When you're almost giving up 12 a game, hard to win those games if the Brewers batters. So let's hope that the pitching, Rodriguez comes in there, goes 7 innings.
Yankees also lead in batting average at 333. However, they are not in first when it comes to the amount of hits. It's the Diamondbacks, 46 hits.
There you go. And they're playing the Diamondbacks?
Yep.
All right.
So Yankees only have 34. They're 5th. Bums.
Yeah. There you go. Torpedoes.
Right.
Darn the torpedoes.
Oh, goodness gracious. So,
how I kept it PG there.
Yes. Yep. So torpedoes. Or bowling pin bats, I think Trevor McGill called them. So did you see Trevor McGill's quote?
No.
Oh my God.
Bowling pin bat. That does they do look like a bowling pin.
Yeah. Trevor McGill is not happy about him. Let me bring up the exact quote that he's. Did he even? I'm sorry. Did he pitch in
I
this
don't know
series?
if
I
he
don't think
did.
he did.
Maybe he did that
Maybe
first
got an
game.
inning, or I'm not. He said, "I think it's terrible. We'll see what the data says. I've never seen anything like it before. I feel like it's something used in slow pitch softball. It's genius. Put the mass all in one spot. It might be Bush League. It might not be, but it's the Yankees, so they'll let it slide."
Trevor McGill not wanting to get doesn't want to be a Yankee at any time here soon. So
nope. So, and luckily he doesn't have to pitch against them again or at all this year.
you know, though, we got to say on for how close on Thursday we got to the Devin Williams. Like,
yeah.
I texted my friends. I'm like, I can't wait for Devin Williams to either come in and strike out the side or give him a home run for the, and it almost
happened.
Yeah.
And
So
then
good luck to Yankees fans for the next, because that's what you're going to deal with a lot.
Yeah. And then the whole Trent Grisham stopping it with the hat thing, I didn't know right away till the day after. Like, that was, did you see that
No.
too? So it was it Isaac Collins when he hit that double? Grisham took his hat off and stopped the ball with his hat, which is a no-no. That's illegal.
I didn't know. I didn't.
And Brandon said, that's actually a 3-base error. So, yeah.
Those Yankees, the fix was in.
Got that. Torpedo bats, for crying out loud.
Aaron Judge just being way too talented.
He's too big to play in Major League Baseball. He should be playing basketball.
Yeah, go to the Knicks.
Tight end in the NFL, for crying out loud. Come on. Thanks, buddy.
No
we
problem.
Appreciate it. All right, one more hour. Send us your thoughts. Text us. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Final hour kicking off right now on this Monday morning of March 31st. Happy home opener if you are heading over to Milwaukee to check out the Crew taking on the Royals. Brewers looking for their first win of the season. First pitch again for that game. 110 coverage will begin on the radio dials at 12:35. Those radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. So tune into your radios. If you're stuck at work, turn it on, get the radio out, turn that dial on, and you'll be able to check out the Brewers game. Hopefully picking up their first win later on this afternoon. Continue to send us your thoughts on what you saw from this past weekend with the Brewers. Your thoughts on the torpedo bats. So in the first hour, it was a wide majority not happy with it, but feels like it's kind of evened out a little bit. It's getting close to it. Now I'd say it's about 60-40, about 60% of people who have chimed in at least said they don't like it and MLB should get rid of it. But it was probably about well over 90% at least in the first hour. But it's evened up a little bit. But if you haven't chimed in on that subject yet, go ahead and do so and hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Also, and I guess to add to that, what's your biggest takeaway from the weekend? Was it that, or was it the pitching from the Brewers? And not only just the poo-poo performance that we saw, but now you got Aaron Savali who's hurt. So, I mean, this staff decimated, absolutely decimated right now. So, not great. So, but continue to send me your thoughts. It is a Monday morning, which means it is I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. So fill in those blanks and text them on over to me. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Best ones I'll read off on the air a little bit later on this morning. We're going to switch gears. We're going to continue our Packers potential prospect preview series where we take a look at a few prospects each day, one or two each day, about prospects of who potentially could be a Packers pick for their first round, back end first round, maybe an early day 2 pick. So who, we're realistic ones too. Like, we're not going to do a quarterback because Green Bay is not going to draft a quarterback. We're not going to do Travis Hunter because unless Green Bay trades up in the top 3, top 5, it ain't going to be that. Essentially, realistic options that could be there and potentially that the Packers would select for their first round or maybe early day 2. So we've really focused on corners, defensive linemen, edge rushers, wide receivers. And for today's prospects, we've got 2 of them. We're going to take a look at 2 corners. Okay. We're going to look at 2 corners and we'll try to hit up I'm not going to say try. We are going to hit up as many prospects as we possibly can leading up to the first day of the draft. So the final day of our series will actually be on that Wednesday before the first round of the draft, which our last day will be the 23rd. So we are going to do as many prospects as we possibly can. So our 2 corners that we're going to look at today, we've got from the University of Texas, Jahdae Barron, and from Kentucky, Maxwell Hairston. Let's start with Mr. Barron, corner from Texas, from the Longhorns. If you're looking at a little bit of his physical traits, he's 5'11", $194 in weight. You look at his next gen stats, where he ranked in combine and such. Second, production score is 94, ranked second amongst cornerbacks at the 2025 combine. Athleticism score ranked 10th. Total score second out of corners at the combine. Ran a 40-yard dash of a 4.39. 4.39. This is a guy, if you've been looking at different mock drafts, he's been attached to Green Bay a few different times, but it seems like his stock may be rising. And Daniel Jeremiah, NFL draft expert for NFL.com, very high on him. In fact, has him as his 8th best prospect in the entire draft. So Daniel Jeremiah's got his top 50 prospects, okay? And he's got Barrett at number 8, but rising. Now, it doesn't mean he's got him mocked, going in the top 10, but he is climbing up there. So here's what Daniel Jeremiah had to say about Jahdae Barron. Barron is a talented Swiss Army knife. He aligned outside, in the slot, and in the box as a dime linebacker for the Longhorns. He made impact plays in every game I studied. He's a quicker than fast athlete with outstanding eyes and conviction. He's at his best when he can play off and see through receivers to the quarterback. He reads the quarterback's drop and anticipates to beat pass catchers to the ball. He doesn't waste steps and has outstanding hands. He lacks elite top speed, but he's always in position, and he is excellent at locating, playing the football downfield. He has good timing and feel as a blitzer. He can adjust from pass to run defense to collect tackles. His batting average as a tackler in space is very high. And it's interesting that Daniel Jeremiah put this player comp out here because yesterday when I was kind of watching some of his clips on YouTube and highlights, there was a player that jumped out to me. And when I looked up what Daniel Jeremiah's profile had on him this morning, it was the same player that I thought of. And it was Brian Branch. Brian Branch, who plays for the Detroit Lions right now. Overall, Barron excels at taking the ball away and reminds me of Brian Branch when he was coming out of Alabama. Brian Branch was a guy that a lot of Packers fans a couple years ago wanted the Packers to draft. So you hear a lot of that stuff. Versatile corner, plays multiple different spots, can play inside, can play outside, dime backer. That just, you're probably saying, man, that should easily fit what Jeff Hafley wants to do with defense. Give Jeff Hafley this type of corner to put in his defense. And I think you'd be right. That Jeff Hafley would utilize his skill sets and put him in different spots on the field, on the defense, to affect games. He would be an interesting Swiss Army knife type player for Green Bay. So if he was the pick for Green Bay, I would hope that Hafley doesn't kind of pigeonhole him and doesn't really say, okay, we're just going to keep you a slot corner, or we're just going to primarily play you as an outside corner. I would hope that he would utilize his skill sets and not just limit him to a certain role and utilize them all across. I mean, a lot of fans are probably thinking, oh, like a Charles Woodson type of role. I'm not saying Barron is the next Charles Woodson because that is incredibly high praise. But a guy that can do different things on the defensive side, and especially coming from the secondary. This last year, first team AP All-American, first team All-SEC, won the Jim Thorpe Award, which is the nation's top defensive back. He was a finalist for the Bronco Nagurski Award, which is the nation's top defender. Was the Peach Bowl defensive MVP. I mean, you talk about he's playing in the SEC, going up against that speed and such. I think he would be a very, very intriguing fit within his defense. And yes, they got Hobbs in the offseason, but adding this guy to this secondary with a Xavier McKinney and an Evan Williams and Hobbs and Keyshawn and that'd be really intriguing to me. He'd be really intriguing, and I wouldn't be upset about it, to be honest with you. I would not be upset about it. I think that could be a very, very fun piece to watch within this Jeff Hafley defense. Let's take a look at another corner. And, a lot of Packers fans too, at least if you go on socials and mocks, they're familiar with Barron because they've probably seen him mocked to Green Bay quite a bit. But there's another corner that has really risen up as of late. in terms of, talking and just his stock has risen up. And that's Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. 5'11", a $183. Super fast. Ran the 40 in a 4.28. His production score, next gen stats at the combine, was 8th. Athleticism score, 8th. Combine cornerback rank was 7th. Daniel Jeremiah has him as his 32nd ranked prospect, but skyrocketing. He has him moving up 11 spots. Hairston is lean, athletic corner with ideal play speed and fluidity. In press coverage, he incorporates a one-hand jam before turning and carrying vertical routes. He has plenty of burst and speed. And off coverage, he likes to settle and catch receivers at the break point. He'll need to play cleaner with his hands down the field at the next level. In Kentucky's defense, he rolled back to play in the middle of the field versus certain formations, motions, but he was late to diagnose and react from that alignment. He's willing in run support and is a dynamic blitzer. He was limited to 7 games this past season due to a shoulder injury, which impacted his tackling. He had a very productive 2023 season, but wasn't targeted much in the games I studied. This is from Daniel Jeremiah this past year. Overall, he offers an enticing blend of movement skills and production. So I'll tell you the player comp that my player comp when I was watching some of his stuff yesterday that I came up with. And I'm not, this is just my opinion. And, my sample size is incredibly small compared to the Daniel Jeremiahs and the Matt Millers and the Mel Kipers, et cetera out there. But watching some of his highlights yesterday, the player that came to my mind was Jair. Just kind of watching his play style and watching some of his highlights, that was the player that came to my mind. And, Jair, where'd he play? Louisville, Kentucky, same heights and such. So that was the player that jumped out to my mind. And then, you read Daniel Jeremiah's, he had a shoulder injury, and it's like, that's Jair again over there too. But this is an outside corner. And if you are a believer that Green Bay needs an outside corner, needs some speed when it comes to their corners, this might be the guy that fits that bill. I mean, when you run a sub 4.3 40 going up against some of these wide receivers with the speed that they possess, you might want that, because we know Keyshawn's not going to be the fastest dude. Carrington's not going to be the fastest dude, right? I mean, if you want a little speed with your corner, if that's what you want to address in this draft, this may be the guy to do it. And the biggest question around him is probably going to be, okay, he went through some shoulder injuries this past year. And I'm sure Packers fans are saying we don't need another corner that is going through shoulder injuries. Okay, I understand that. I get that. Totally get it. And he might need a little bit more molding to become a full-fledged starter, which, okay, you look at what Green Bay has at the corner position right now with their depth, you can probably afford to do that with Maxwell. But I would say he is better suited playing on the outside. The only thing, you look at the height, and it's 5'11", and it didn't really matter so much to Jair, but you kind of wonder, it's like, okay, if he's matched up outside and those tend to be bigger receivers, will he get out physical? Will, the other bigger receivers essentially out jump him and make plays on those 50-50, and he will lose the majority of those 50-50 balls? But he's got great makeup speed to catch up. I mean, that was something that Jair had. That's something, a lot of those really good outside corners have if they have that makeup speed. So, but this is a guy that, again, he's just kind of really, his stock is flying up on the mock drafts or the on these one of my prospect rankings, especially from Daniel Jeremiah. And you're probably starting to see his name a little bit attached to Green Bay because, well, where Green Bay's drafting that first round. If Maxwell's a guy that's inching up towards in that first round, Green Bay's drafting at the back end there. And then you talk about, him being a dynamic blitzer. We saw Jeff Hafley do that a little bit with his corners last year. Some of it was probably just because he had to get pressure at some point from somewhere because he wasn't getting it from his front four. But this is a guy that is pretty good at it too. And if you put him on the outside, you got a little bit more depth from that corner position for a guy that could play the outside and keep up speed-wise with some of those speedy outside receivers. All right, we'll do some more potential Packers potential Packer prospects coming at you tomorrow. We'll probably do 2 more because there's a lot. I mean, where Green Bay's drafting, you got a lot of players in play, especially when we're kind of looking at maybe early day 2 picks as well. Because right now, if I were to guess, I think Green Bay's going to trade back a little bit and accumulate some more picks, but could be completely off on that. So we got a lot of guys that we'll try to get to for Green Bay, but we'll do 2 more coming at you tomorrow. Probably do another receiver just to mix it up, and maybe another edge rusher as well. Should we put some offensive linemen in there too? That's a rumor floating around out there that Green Bay may be heavily targeting an offensive lineman in the first round. Smoke screens. Not saying they're not going to, but remember this time of year, smoke screens. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up after these quick words. When it comes to one-stop shopping, there's truly only one store in the Chippewa Valley that can carry that title, and that's Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. From grocery shopping and picking up some new team apparel in their sports shop to grabbing a beverage at the bar or picking up something from their massive wine and spirits department, Hy-Vee has something for everyone. And if you want someone else to cook for the night, they got you covered with so many different options from their food court. Then, when you head out, don't forget to fill up your gas tank with the fuel savers you earned by shopping at Hy-Vee. Shop smart, shop Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Cruising on through here, already at the bottom of the hour in our final hour of the program. So just 30 minutes left to go. Cruising through like a bat coming off of a torpedo bat from the New York Yankees. Revisiting kind of what we talked a little bit about in the first hour in case you're just joining us. But what are your thoughts? Do you have a problem with the bats that the Yankees were using, even though they are legal? You have a problem with it. And if you do have a problem with it, do you have a problem with it just because it happened to your favorite team, the Milwaukee Brewers? Brewers getting dominated by the Yankees over the weekend, getting swept. We know they lost on Thursday. Talked about that on Friday. But they followed up Saturday. I mean, I don't really want to revisit everything over here. I think this would be one where, you know, if it was a basketball game or football game, you're like, burn the tape. We don't need to rewatch it. But Saturday, 20-9 shellacking. Nestor Cortez going up against his former ball club. 3 pitches, 3 home runs to begin. 4 home runs in the inning. But 20-9, and then yesterday following it up. Brewers did have a lead in the first and then lost it in the bottom of the first. But Brewers losing 12-3, and then Aaron Savali to add insult to injury through 3 innings, 68 pitches, but also left due to a hamstring issue. So you've got a pitching staff that is just absolutely decimated right now. You know, what the biggest takeaway from the weekend? I know the biggest storyline is the torpedo bats that the Yankees used yesterday. I mean, even Sunday Night Baseball, you had Manny Machado getting asked about it while he was mic'd up and that. So, but for me, for Brewers, that's the biggest takeaway I've got is this pitching staff and what an HE double hockey sticks are they going to be doing with this pitching staff until everybody's healthy and ready to come back. You know, if Savali's going to miss some time, Myers isn't expected to be back until the end of April. Who knows about Brandon Woodruff? Probably May. Quintana is going to get some road starts in AAA to work up to his way. I don't know how this thing's going to work out. Are you going to have some open tryouts to get some arms in there for crying out loud? Jake Bauers, dude, you might not be being any playing any position players right now. You might have to save your arm for some bullpen work. I mean, this is the biggest takeaway I've got. Yeah, I get the bats and the amount of runs and home runs that the Yankees had, but from a Brewers perspective, I'm worried about the pitching, and that's why it kind of leads into or feeds into potentially, you know, what we saw from the Yankees offense this past weekend too. Was it the torpedo bats, or was it just the straight up pitching from the Brewers, for crying out loud? That, you know, not to have an overreaction Monday or anything like that, but if there's something I'm concerned about, it's the start. It's the pitching. And hopefully we'll see some bounce back performances. Hopefully we'll see some length from Rodriguez today, who's being the starter, initial outgetter, opener, whatever the heck you want to call it. But if you're like, who's Rodriguez? You're not the only person to like, well, who? I mean, Elvin Rodriguez last year, he was in Tokyo. Before that, he spent a little bit with Tampa Bay, and then before that, Detroit, a little bit with the Angels. I mean, he's only 27. Actually, it's his birthday today, too. Hey, happy birthday, Elvin Rodriguez. You're the opening day starter, or the home opening starter for the Brewers. But the biggest thing I want from him is just some length. Let's see if we can get some length out of him. But yeah, he spent last year Tokyo. What was it? 32 appearances for the Swallows in 2024, compiling a 1-1 record with a 1.80 ERA with 44 strikeouts across 45 innings pitched. November 21st, 2024, Rodriguez and the Swallows parted ways, making him a free agent. Then in January, he signed a one-year contract with the Brewers that included a club option for 2026. So there's your little bit of a scouting report. I did not know it was his birthday till I just saw it right there too. So there you have it. But I want length from him. I don't know what the plan's going to be, but this was a pitching staff too that, you had your regular starters with Freddie and Nestor and Aaron Savale. You were at least hoping that you were going to get some length from them, but man, they had to go to their bullpen early on Saturday and Sunday, and with no off day scheduled until next Monday, you kind of have to worry, especially in the beginning part of this season. How is that going to hold up in the initial parts of this beginning part of the season? It's just, that's the biggest takeaway I've got from this series or from this opening weekend was this pitching's in some early trouble. And if I'm Matt Arnold, the general manager for the Brewers, I got to figure out a way. I got to find some arms, possibly even making some call-ups and just getting some bodies into that bullpen that are ready to go here. Are you already making some trades to try to acquire some arms in this thing? If I'm Matt Arnold, I'm looking everywhere and anywhere for some guys that can throw me some innings. But, back to the bat thing, which is the big topic, not only just for Brewers and such, but it's the big topic in Major League Baseball. And I get it, Trevor Megill, like, what side are you on? Are you on the Trevor Megill side where he hates it? Even saying, I'm not sure if it's Bush League or not. I'm paraphrasing, but he did use the phrase Bush League. Also said, but it's the Yankees, so they'll let it slide. I mean, Megill pissed about him. But then you got to have the Reese Hoskins and the Christian Yelich's. It's actually not, putting the I don't know if blame or fault or the excuse on the bats. Heck, even Reese Hoskins said that he's, going to order some. Christian Yelich saying, quote, I think us players will try anything. I don't think the kind of bat you use has an impact on the outcome of the series. I don't think we played anywhere close to good enough to win any of those games the last 3 days. I don't think the bats had any factor on the series. As players, you're open to trying anything. If you like it, keep doing it. If you don't like it, stay with what you are used to. And like we said, Reese Hoskins said that, he called some peeps, called, the manufacturers of his model, his bat, and going to get some in to try it out too. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's legal. So if you're a player that maybe wasn't familiar with him, or if you're a player and you saw the results that some of the Yankee players had, not every Yankee player was using them, but you saw the results like Chisholm had or Goldschmidt or Bellinger, they had. Judge doesn't use it, but you saw those guys and you're like, why wouldn't you? I would. You're probably, if Reese Hoskins all of a sudden got a shipment today, he's probably not using it today. Might want it because it's a different feel. The weights distribution on it's going to be a little bit different. So they're probably going to want to take some BP swings in it, hit it in the cage and that, just to kind of see how it feels, because it's not going to be for everybody. But if I'm a hitter and I saw what the Yankees were doing this weekend, you have two choices. You can moan and groan about it and go out on your front yard and scream to the world. Or, all right, I'm going to try this too. And I would hope that if you're a player and you haven't tried it, but you're curious about it, what do you have to lose to try it? It's a bat that was designed to kind of help hitters if they get, with those inside pitches and such, moving that or adjusting the sweet spot of the bat or the barrel of the bat, where everybody's seen it, right? You're moving a lot of that portion of the wood. It looks like a torpedo, looks like a bowling pin, for crying out loud. So if it's legal out there, why not try it if you're interested in it, if you're a player? So good for Reese Hoskins saying, I'm going to order something, I'm going to try. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for him. Doesn't necessarily mean it's all of a sudden he's going to just tattoo some home runs. I will say that I'm curious on a bigger sample size, outside of this Brewers and Yankees series, if this is a trend that continues and it's a trend maybe that continues in other ballparks, like it's the Yankees go to Fenway or the Yankees go to a different ballpark outside of their home stadium, and it continues where you've got, just home run or a lot of balls in play and such. I'll be curious to see if Major League Baseball counters that, because you see this in sports all the time, especially in football. I mean, we're seeing it with the tush push. Apparently, there is a movement now with the tush push that, hey, this might actually be a close vote. And I kind of joked about it when it first came out that I'm like, oh, Mark Murphy's going out there and proposing this because he's retiring, and what does he have to lose in that? Apparently, there's reports out there that there's some backing to ban the tush push. And apparently, some of the thought out there is that Green Bay was the one to kind of take the bullet and put their name to it because, one, they don't have an owner. And, well, the closest thing they have an owner to is to Mark Murphy, and he's retiring in July. But apparently there is some backing for this from other teams. We'll see how close the vote gets. But the point I'm bringing up is if this is a thing that continues and, we have a bigger sample size of this and, Yankees are hitting all these home runs and they're spraying the ball all over the place, would Major League Baseball after this season say, okay, how does Major League Baseball counter that? Maybe they embrace it? Or do they say, all right, we're going to do this to the ball? Remember the whole dead ball thing? Or they're going to change it, or they're going to alter stuff. I'd be curious after we get a full season's worth of data and just seeing how everything kind of works out. Does Major League Baseball say that's too much, and then they change it? Then they alter the rules? I don't know. But I think we need to see a bigger sample size of this too before we kind of fully go up in arms. But, I mean, it was to a point where, I can't be the only one sitting there saying, I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, you gotta pitch around the corners. I mean, you're trying to maybe as a pitcher, trying to pitch so that barrel isn't making contact on that ball. I mean, as a pitcher, it's in your head now, I have to imagine, right? Or as a catcher, if you're calling the game, it's probably in your head by that third game on yesterday, on Sunday, you're Aaron Savali and you're Contreras, and you're like, okay, how do we call this game now? Knowing what we saw from these style of bats. And I got to imagine, if you're the Diamondbacks who are now playing the Yankees or whoever else is going to be playing the Yankees for the rest of the season, as a pitcher going up against that lineup and against those hitters, it's probably in your mind now. Like, okay, do we have to approach this hitter differently? How do we attack differently? And that's going to be something that, these teams and these coaches and everybody else is going to have to adjust to. But I want to see a bigger sample size with this. And I think too, was it all the batting or was it just the Brewers pitching was absolutely pitiful. It was awful. I mean, Nestor Cortez was awful. Aaron Savali was not great. Pitching overall, not great. Made Freddie Peralta's. And Freddie Peralta didn't pitch bad to begin with, but his two solo shots. And I know it's a short porch and right for the Yankees. But it really looks like that Freddie Peralta starts like dang good if you're factoring in everything there. So, all right, we'll take our final break here, and we've got some picks and predicts coming up here. So we'll pick today's Brewers game and some other games and the last two games of the Women's Elite Eight before that Final Four is all set and ready to go. So plenty of picks and predicts coming up after these quick words. kind of wrap up our informal poll question that we had in the first hour, right away in the 6 o'clock hour. We asked fans, listeners about the torpedo bats, and in that hour, it was clearly, I mean, probably I'd say 90% of the people who texted in, and that's how we kind of add everything on there. But of all the people that texted in, I'd say it was about 90% were not happy with the bats. Then it kind of evened out in the second hour, but it's kind of moved up a little bit more towards the side of listeners who are not happy with the bats. To which I would ask, for those who are not happy with the bats, if it wasn't your team, if it wasn't the Brewers, if it was Yankees versus Guardians, Yankees versus Red Sox, Yankees versus Mariners, or whoever the case it might have been, heck, if it was Yankees versus Cubs, would you be that upset about it? Or is it because it happens to the Brewers, it's a little bit more out there and you're a little bit more upset about it? So that would be my only counter to that. But all right, let's do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room here in Eau Claire, located right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire. We've got the women's Division I college basketball schedule continuing. We've got a couple more games in the Elite Eight tonight. We know two teams who are in the Final Four. Number 1 UCLA, number 1 South Carolina. And we've got number 1 USC taking on number 2 UConn. And obviously this game is a little bit different because I mean, you got two premier programs, but Juju Watkins being out with that knee injury completely changes this game. So much so, I mean, UConn is favored by 14 and a half. 14 and a half in this game. So yeah, I'm going to go UConn getting back to the Final Four. Then you got Texas versus TCU. Texas is favored by 7.5 in this game. I'm going to go Texas. So I think just like the men's Final Four, I think it's going to be all, or no, it's not going to be all one seeds because UConn's a 2. So 3 of the 4 1 seeds are getting in. UConn, the lone 2 seed, the lone non-1 seed, getting into the Final Four. So those games, by the way, tonight's 8 p.m. USC versus UConn. Right before that, 6 p.m. Texas TCU. Let's do some NBA games before we get to Major League Baseball picks. You got Utah at Charlotte. I'll go with the Hornets. Sacramento at Indiana. I'm going to go with the Pacers. Clippers at Orlando. Give me the Clippers. Miami at Washington. I'll roll with the Heat. Boston at Memphis could be good. Memphis fired their head coach. This was Friday, so we'll say this. If there's any thoughts about the Bucks potentially making a coaching change this offseason, I don't think there will be. I don't know how much money they're going to be willing to spend to another fired coach. But if they were to look, remember Taylor Jenkins. Taylor Jenkins was a Bucks assistant from 18 to 19. And Giannis has been on record before singing the praises of Taylor Jenkins. And we saw the job that he has done with the Grizzlies from 19 to 25, and they're making the postseason this year. But I would just say I don't think the Bucks are going to make a coaching move. Could be completely wrong. But if they were, I would think Taylor Jenkins is going to be a possibility. Just because he is a former assistant with the Bucks, he knows Giannis. Giannis likes him, and that's going to factor into a lot of it too. But anyways, back to the picks. We've got Boston at Memphis. I am going to go with Boston. Chicago at OKC. Give me the Thunder. Brooklyn versus the Dallas Mavericks. I'll roll with the Mavericks. And then Houston at the Lakers. I will go with the Lakers. Major League Baseball schedule for today. Let's start off with Boston at Baltimore. I'm going to go with Baltimore in this one. Colorado, Philadelphia. I'll roll with the Phillies. Mets at the Marlins. Give me the Mets. Rangers versus the Reds. I'm going to go with the Reds. Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay. I'll roll with the Pirates. Washington, Toronto. I'll go with the Blue Jays. A's and the Cardinals. Tip of the caps to the Cardinals. Fantastic opening series for them too. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals today. Giants against the Astros. I will roll with the Giants. Cleveland visiting the Padres. I'll go with the Padres. Detroit, Seattle. I'm going to go with the Tigers. Cubs, A's. I'll go with the Cubs. And then Braves, Dodgers. Braves not off to a great start either for their season. They're 0-4, and now they've got the Dodgers. I'll go with the Dodgers tonight. You got the Twins taking on the White Sox, looking to bounce back from their series against the Cardinals, the Twins, that is. I'm going to go with the Twins. Kansas City versus the Milwaukee Brewers. Rodriguez on the mound for the Crew. Boy. I'll go with the Brewers, but I am not comfortable. I am not confident in that. I'm not confident in that. So, all right, those are your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Big thanks to Justice for stopping by for a little bit. We did a little local sports roundup with him. Shout out to UW River Falls women's hockey with another national championship. Dominant program over there over the years, back-to-back national championships. So shout out to them. They got that done over the weekend. Shout out to Coach Leslie Huntington, our good friend, Coach Huntington, Blue Gold Softball, getting her 600th career victory. So congrats to her as well. So big thanks, though, to Justice for dropping by and doing some local sports roundup with us and hanging out with us, talking a little Brewers baseball and talking some hoops. Bucks last night falling to the Hawks, and it is not good for the Bucks right now. Right now looking like they're going to be the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference when the playoffs start. They just keep falling further and further behind both the Pacers and now the Pistons. Bucks 3 games back from the Pacers for that 4th spot. They're 1.5 back from the Pistons. Reminder, they play the Pistons in their final 2 games of the regular season. But if the playoffs started today, the Bucks would be on the road taking on the Knicks. I think they'll still hold on to that 6th spot and not fall into a play-in round. They still hold a 4-game lead over the Atlanta Hawks, who are the 7th seed. And that's who the Bucks lost to last night, was the Hawks. When you look at the rest of the schedule here for the Bucks, they've got the Suns coming up tomorrow in Milwaukee. Then they're on the road for the next 3 at Philly, at Miami, at New Orleans, home against Minnesota, home against the Pelicans, at Detroit, and then they wrap up at home against the Pistons on the 13th. So, I mean, those last 2 games against the Pistons could decide whether they're going to be a 6 or a 5, whether they play the Knicks or whether they play the Pacers on the road. That's potentially what's at stake. But last night's game was just so frustrating to watch from a defensive standpoint because Bucks offensively were pretty darn solid for the most part, besides the 3rd quarter when they only scored 17. But you drop 44 in the first. You have a lead. But their defensive effort was pretty pitiful. It was pretty pitiful. And if you watch it, it was especially transition D. You know, the Bucks would hit a 3 or they would hit a shot, and it was just outlet pass. It was so easy for the Hawks to get up and down. So many open guys next to the hoop, or guys just dominating off the dribble and attacking the Bucks defense. At some point, there's got to be a pride factor into this, and it just looked like the Bucks had no interest whatsoever in playing defense last night. It was awful. It was bad. And it was embarrassing. But right now, you look at this Bucks team, they're limping in. Who knows with Dame, what's going to be his status entering the postseason and such. But regardless, I think they're one and done at this point. One and done in the postseason. But again, tomorrow, April Fool's Day, they'll be going up against the Suns. Tip time for that game's at 6:30. Just as a reminder, too, since we've got a Bucks and Brewers game on at the same time, you'll hear the Brewers game on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, and the Bucks game will be on our sister station. So if you're a diehard Bucks fan, or maybe you're going to watch the Brewers or watch whatever, watch one and tune one to the radio, whatever. Bucks will be playing on our sister station 95.9, 11:50 a.m. So you can tune into the Bucks game at 95.9, 11:50 a.m. Brewers will remain at 105.1 FM and 790 a.m. So just a little programming notes from the powers at B. Just passing that along. Again, first pitch for today's game for the Royals, 1:10. You will be able to hear that on 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Pre-game coverage will begin at 12:35. So set your alarms. And again, as always, reminder, you have to listen to the games on the radio dials, not on the stream. They're only available on the radio at 105.1 FM, 790 AM. So you can check that out later on or just in a few hours from now. So tomorrow it is April Fool's. We're going to do, think about this. I'm going to give you a quick homework assignment. So tomorrow being April 1st, now this could be like a draft pick, or it could be a player or a team. Who was a player or who was a team that just absolutely fooled you? Like you were confident, like Packers drafted that guy. You were so confident that was a home run pick. That was a bust. That player fooled. You got fooled. Or you thought this team was going to be so good, and they weren't. They fooled you. Or you were like, oh, that coach was that great coach hire or a great trade that happened, and nope, you were fooled. What were the biggest Wisconsin sports fool jobs, April Fools, that you could think of? Whether it was a draft pick, whether it was a player, whether it was a team. What was something that you were so confident in that it was going to work or they were going to be really good? And surprise, surprise, it didn't work out. It wasn't. Like, for example, I'll tell you one. Dayton Jones, I thought was a good pick. Nope. They ended up not having a great long career for the Packers. I think, in the past we've talked about, draft picks that you thought were going to be good. Clinton Dix, his name has been thrown out there, I know, for a few people. So those are examples of draft picks. Maybe it was a trade or a free agent signing that you thought was going to be a home run, and it wasn't. Maybe you were all in the Jeff Suppan bandwagon when the Brewers signed him years ago. April Fools. So that's your homework assignment. Think about that. Hit me up with those texts tomorrow. DP Danitz are up next. Have a good rest of your day. If you're off to Milwaukee for the home opener, drive safe, be careful, have fun. Hopefully we're talking about a win tomorrow. Same place, same time, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.